But I was going to get Matt to just do a quick chat about Delphix.
Cool. So I'll be talking. Oh, thanks. I do. This part of the presentation, I'll talk about what the Delphix product is and how we use ZFS and how we interact with the community. So first, a little bit of background on what our product is. So we do database virtualization. Our customers are mainly like big IT shops that are using traditional like Oracle database, Microsoft SQL Server database, Postgres database to run their organizations. So these customers, they often have their production database, which is like, really carefully maintained, and then they also have non-production databases, non-production copies of that database for development, test, QA, UAT, reporting, lots of things. So typically we'll see that there's like 10 non-production copies of every one production database that our customers are using. So the first kind of obvious problem with this is that you're wasting a lot of disk space. But the perhaps less obvious to an outsider problem is that the process of actually getting like refreshed copies of the production data in these non-production use cases is often very cumbersome. You need to go through like multiple layers of different parts of the IT organization, to get storage, to get a new server, to talk to the production database owner who really doesn't want you to do anything unnecessary to the production database to get the additional copy. So our customers often it'll actually take them like multiple weeks to get a new copy of the database before they're using Delphix. So our product, essentially, we pull one copy of the production database into our Delphix engine. I'll get into what that is in a second. And then we're able to very quickly create virtual databases, which are based on ZFS snapshots and clones for these non-production use cases. We integrate this all very tightly with the rest of their infrastructure. So we're going and like SSHing to these various machines, setting up Oracle instances, playing Oracle log files, and all that. So in terms of how this interfaces with ZFS, so the Delphix engine is a virtual machine. It can run on VMware, and it's based on Lumos and OpenZFS. So one of the kind of interesting things about the way that we interact in the environment is that we wanted to make our product very easy for customers to drop into their existing infrastructure without having to roll in any new hardware, because that's just going to add time to before they can start doing a POC or getting a deployment. So that's why one of the reasons that we run on VMware is so that we don't have to like require any special hardware, and we use whatever their existing storage is. So this is typically over a SAN, over fiber channel to some big like EMC or NetApp box or something like that. And then we're exporting these ZFS clones of the database out over like NFS to their existing servers, and then running the Oracle instances on there. Any questions about this kind of infrastructure? How that fits into the...
So what do people use it for? I mean, what's the specific use case that people are doing with it? What's the specific use case that people are using Delphix for?
Yeah, so they're generally using it for these non-production databases, copies of their database.
Analytics and kind of stuff? Or?
Yeah, so analytics is probably like a second tier use case, like reporting. The kind of primary number one use case is like development. So they have their production database, and then they're working on new features, meaning like at the Oracle or like the application that's running on Oracle level. So like they're developing new stored procedures, new tables, that kind of stuff.
Oh, so you can test on the data, but not the live data.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
So I know like most of us, I mean, including me, are not really from this enterprise IT shop background. So learning all this stuff was definitely new to me as well. But to kind of simplify it for maybe people like me who are more familiar with like very lightweight development environments, it's basically this is like introducing like lightweight source code management to enterprise databases. So rather than having to like do everything super manually, it's like you can just like create a new branch and of your production database by using Delphix, and then you can do a rollback and you can do a refresh to pull in the new production data, just like you can with like Git and clone and pull, Git pull and Git clone and that kind of stuff, but with your whole production database.
One quick question: is it well, the Delphix engine only works with the Oracle database, or you're working with other types of databases?
We also work with Microsoft SQL Server and with Postgres. We just launched the Postgres product like a couple months ago.
Okay.
We also we're working on running on EC2. So this is a little bit of work to get Lumos and the OmniOS distribution working with EC2. In Microsoft SQL Server, it's slightly different because they, for two reasons. One, SQL Server backups can only be applied live to another SQL Server instance, rather than like Oracle backups. We can take the Oracle RMN backup and then like interpret that format and apply it to the data files ourselves. But because this is like more like a physical backup, it tells us like this block of this file was changed. Versus with SQL Server, there isn't anything like that. It's more like a logical backup where it says like this change the entry with this row to have this new data in it. So that has to be applied to it with another SQL Server instance. But then we basically back that storage with our Delphix engine over iSCSI. So basically this computer has an iSCSI mount that has NTFS on top of it, that has the SQL Server database. It's storing that backup copy, and then we're creating clones of those zvols and then exporting them over iSCSI to run the non-production databases.
Matt, I have a question. Back to the Oracle page, please. So are you saying using Oracle RMN? Are you doing a second copy of it, or is it like regular tape backup would be Oracle RMN? You're storing it somewhere on a tape for the production database for 30 days or whatever. For this particular use case, do you create an extra copy of it, and does it have to be a full Oracle RMN backup, or are you handling incrementals as well?
So this would be like one copy in addition to, if you're doing tape backups, you're probably still doing those. I mean, we do have customers that are actually getting rid of their tape backups and using Delphix as the backup as well. But typically, you'd still be doing your tape backups, and then you'd also be doing this RMAN copy to Delphix, and we do incrementals. So we do the initial load, which is like a full RMAN backup, and then we do incremental loads, like maybe every day, and then we also can pull over actually all of the log files continuously. So you can actually provision these databases from any point in time, like up to the exact transaction that you want, rather than only at specific snapshots.
In terms of log files, you're just storing them on your appliance,
Yeah.
not on. Okay.
Yeah. So we're essentially like SSHing into this machine and then running either running Oracle RMAN incremental backups, or running Oracle RMAN to either send us the like data file backups or to send us the log files, and then we store the copy in Delphix, and then like we're using ZFS compression, so it takes like about half as much space usually, and then we're using snapshots and clones to create those virtual databases.
Created exports for the for the non-productive systems. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Any more questions about this kind of overview of what we're doing? Cool. Yeah, as I mentioned, our customers are typically like big IT shops. I think that our biggest customer in Europe is Deutsche Bank, for example. What's unique or different about the way that we at Delphix are using OpenZFS? So we depend on lots of fast clones of file systems and volumes. so one of the design principles of ZFS was that we wanted clones to be represented the same way file systems are. So like when you create a clone, you have the whole block tree with all the block pointers. There's no additional cost. You can create a clone of a clone of a clone of a clone, and the performance of that is still exactly the same as your first file system. So this really works really well in our use case because you can do you can create lots of VDBs. Those are all clones, and then you can create like a VDB from a VDB, and that's like a clone of a clone. So that's really good for us. We don't run on like raw disks. We're actually running like with no replication or no redundancy at the ZFS layer because we're running on this like reliable enterprise storage. I'll leave that as is. So we're running on VMware. I don't know how many. Is anybody running? I guess probably most of you are running on bare metal. Is anybody else like running primarily on VMware? One person. Other types of virtualization like cloud stuff. One couple. Okay. Yeah. So that's a little bit unique. We've definitely run into some limitations on VMware, especially like older. Not even that old, but like before. I think it's before VMware ESX 5.5. There's like some really severe limitations on disk sizes, disk image sizes. So we're looking at going to using RDM, the raw device mapping, rather than VMFS, because there's limits of like a couple terabytes. So some of our customers have like dozens of terabytes. So it's not like super huge by kind of enterprise standards, but still, even with dozens of terabytes, you start running into a lot of limitations in ESX. So we're using 8K record size. This is not that unusual for ZFS because most of the databases internally use 8K record size. And one interesting thing is that we're using SHA-256 but checksum, but not for dedupe. We implemented this no-op write mechanism. So if you overwrite a block with contents that are identical to what's already there, then we will just ignore that write. And the reason for this is that sometimes, especially for Microsoft SQL Server, there's these, so for one thing, if this connection is severed for some reason, and the production server like rolls over its logs, then we'll have missed some log entries. And so in that case, we have to basically pull a whole new copy from the production server. But thankfully, NTFS is an overwrite in place file system. So what happens is we pull over that new copy, we write it into the same files. Those same files are still wherever they were on disk. So it overwrites the same locations in the ZVol. And then we just, in ZFS, we say, oh, the checksum of that data is the same as the checksum of what we already have. So I don't need to do that, right? And the main, this obviously saves on I/O costs, but more importantly, it means that it won't break the block sharing with the snapshot, because we want to be able to, we don't want to have to say like, oh, like if this connection gets severed, then maybe we'll double your storage cost, right? Like that would not be acceptable. There's also other cases where that can happen with like no logging operations to the database that don't get logged. Then we have to take a full copy of the backup.
And this is totally off piste, but have you been using vSAN?
No.
No, okay.
No.
End of that one.
Sorry. There's something else that I wanted to mention here that I'm forgetting. Hopefully I'll remember it later. So lastly, I want to talk about how is Delphix involved in the community. So obviously, this is part of my day job, being here to talk to you guys and talk at other ZFS conferences. So Delphix sponsors that kind of community engagement work. We're also actively pushing our code changes to Illumos. So I know that a lot of you guys are working with the ZFS source code, which is super great. And hopefully you're following the letter of the law with the CDDL and publishing your source code changes. But really, having a meaningful impact on the community requires engaging with the community to upstream your changes. I think this has this is really beneficial to the community, but also it's beneficial to us as a contributor because as we make code changes, then if we didn't contribute those upstream, then eventually somebody else is going to make a change upstream that we really want in our product. We're going to have to pull that down, and doing that merge can be very, very painful. I've heard lots of horror stories of people that have made products. Not too many horror stories with ZFS yet, but like with FreeBSD, where they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm on FreeBSD 8. Our product is on FreeBSD 8, and we've made 100,000 lines of changes to the operating system, and now we want to update to FreeBSD 10, and that's like a three engineer year effort, which is like, that's incredible, right? It's like, why didn't you just pay the little bit of incremental cost as you went along to upstream all, if you could upstream even half of those changes and save a year and a half of engineering work, that would be really good. That'd be a big savings for your business. So it's a matter of investing the effort up front versus paying later to take advantage of changes that other people are making upstream. We have about actually 9 people from our company have contributed changes upstream. We have probably roughly 3 people working roughly full time on ZFS. And Delphix is the top contributor to OpenZFS, at least measured by number of commits. So this is some of the features that we've contributed to ZFS in the last 3 years. I think that's all I have. Cool.
Yes, you talk about virtualizing ZFS. What are the challenges that you face with virtualizing a Lumos? For instance, VMware supports it, but KVM, how's that working?
Yeah, so we're going to be soon shipping the AWS based, or the EC2 product, and that's based on KVM, and that's based on Zen. Yeah. So we haven't really looked at KVM too much. Zen was, I think it took about 2 engineers 3 months to get that ready. So
are you doing the proper para virtualization? No, I don't think you can. Or is it just I'm a bit confused about Zen. Is it full Zen or para virtualized Zen?
I don't actually know. I wasn't. I haven't really been involved that directly with that work. I know that I recently saw some reviews go out that were make it use the thing that performs better. And I don't remember if that's para-virtualized or fully virtualized or, but I know that there's definitely several things that we had to do with the Lumos. We'll be contributing those upstream as well. Yeah, sorry, I don't have more details for you. Cool. Any more questions? Thanks, guys.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Matt.